And welcome. This is Mary Ellen McGonagle with your Friday afternoon MEM Edge show. And this is the show where we put you in front of where the action is in the broader markets. And as you all may well know, quite a bit in the way of action this week. So let's not waste a moment, get started, share with you what we're going to be covering. Of course, we're going to take a look at the markets. Where are we currently? What can we anticipate going forward? As always, this is with an eye toward helping you create a game plan, not only for next week, but going forward as well. Also, we are going to take a look at themes that have very, very clearly emerged as we get closer to an election decision. And then, of course, earnings season is still very much in play. We're going to take a look at stocks that gapped up on earnings today. We had a fair number. And then from there, take a look at stocks that gapped up last month on earnings. The idea here is to share with you what to be on the lookout for in those stocks that gapped up today, using history as your guide for those names that held support and traded higher from that gap up. From there, we're going to take a look at stocks that are that have broken out and stocks that are just on the cusp of breaking out. Of course, the markets did have a significant reversal this week. We are certainly in a more bullish phase, so breakouts are where you want to be, according to my work. So from there, also, we are going to take a look exactly and precisely where the strength has been since the election and where we can drill down. I have lots of names I want to share with you. A lot of people may think that you may have missed this rally, but we're going to take a closer look there. So let's go ahead and get started. Take a look at some of the news that is taking place this week. That first news item is not current. COVID cases, unfortunately, are continuing to rise, and we are seeing vaccines that are moving forward as opposed to pausing. But moving on, as far as the economic data, manufacturing and factory orders data that were released earlier this week, they do point to a continuing growth within the US economy. So that is certainly good news. We did see super outperformance among many of the FANG stocks, if you will, and we'll get into one of the best names in that area and why. We did see weekly jobless claims fall slightly. That's always good news. Productivity for the second quarter in a row, we did see an improvement in productivity. And then today, October unemployment numbers were released, and we did see a drop, and then the US did add a fair number of jobs. So net overall, we are seeing a continued improvement in the economy. We always want that, certainly as a backdrop, before putting money to work in the broader market. So let's go ahead and get started. Take a look at the S&P 500. So we can see that last week, certainly an entirely different look and feel. Far too much uncertainty for the markets to handle. So one of those uncertain items that are out there relative to COVID-19 vaccine progress, as well as stimulus package and so forth, those still are out there looming, but we certainly are a bit closer to uncovering the election results. And of course, Biden is inching more forward as far as being the potential president for the next 4 years. But interestingly, there is actually going to be gridlock as far as the Senate and Congress. So that is going to help potentially temper any real true shifts as far as policy. So that has the markets less uneasy, and we can see that we did break back up above these simple moving averages. So this red line is your 50-day, and that's really the most critical for my work as far as breaks below and above this key area of support. So we did have that breakdown last week, But this week we did have a very sharp reversal. The S&P up 7.3%. Very nice volume characteristics. We also had the RSI trending back up into positive territory, and the stochastics also up above 50. These are both momentum indicators. So when we see that nice shift out of this downward momentum into positive, that is, of course, constructive. So the broader markets are in a near-term uptrend. Want to have that good backdrop for you as far as investing. So let's take a minute here and drill down a bit further. We want to see where the strength within the underlying broader markets is currently residing. And of course, we did have a significant week among several sectors. I've gone ahead and added that RSI relative strength indicator. So we're looking at a 2-month daily chart of these various 11 sectors, plus the S&P 500 is here. So up here on the upper left is going to be your stronger areas, those that experienced relative outperformance. And then down to this lower right are your weaker areas. So we can see healthcare up here front and center. It was actually not the best performer, but it was up certainly more than the S&P 500. And a lot of different reasons. We're going to get into where the strength within healthcare is and where I would suggest that you focus on. Basic materials, we had a nice rally in gold stocks this week. So this area also outperformed the broader markets. There were other material areas as well, but I would argue gold was one of the more relevant ones. Communication services, this is an area, I'm just going to go ahead and blow this up because we can see that with this pullback in September, this communication services area really had a tough time reinvigorating itself. A lot of the other sectors did get close to their prior highs before pulling back again going into the election. But this week, we are seeing communication services reaching back to that prior high, poised to break out, very constructive, and there are very sound reasons. Certainly Facebook's 11+% move is one of them, but we're going to get into that as well. And then we can drill down here. Technology was it was the top performer, up almost 10% for the week. This is one of those areas that a lot of people may think that, gee, it's up 10%. There can't be more upside on the near term, but I will argue otherwise and share with you why. Because a lot of this pullback here had everything to do with fear, if you will, of corporate taxation rates being greatly increased should Biden and as well as the Senate all take blue, if you will. So the gridlock is going to potentially reduce that fear. And then we are seeing nice earnings numbers in some of these areas as well. So as we drill down just a little bit further here, here is one other that I did want to point out to you, and that is industrial stocks. They performed in line with the markets, but this movement here, it was up 7.2% for the week. And it's all about positive earnings. So that is really quite constructive. A lot of these industrials, of course, they're cyclicals. When we see the earnings and growth in these areas, it does bode well as far as pointing toward an expanding economy. So that's really good news. It's always great when growth stocks are doing well, but even better when we can add to some of these other outlying areas that can also help move the markets higher. So from here, we are going to go ahead and take a look at some of the underlying industry groups, another 2-month daily price chart set up here. This is where I drill down and focus more on some of these growthier areas. That is my expertise. I focus on growth stocks. And so from there, I do have the semiconductor SOXX. IGV is the high-tech software. I have biotechs in here. And then XRT is an S&P equal weighted retail ETF. And So that, and it does tend to have a lot in the way of growthier names, of course, a lot in the way of digital sales as people continue to embrace not going to brick and mortar. And then we have the VIX. So let's take a look at that RSI in there again, as usual. And semiconductors clear and away, the leading sub-industry grouping up 12.5% this week. And as many of you who follow my show and then subscribers to my MEM Edge report will know that I have been very bullish in the semiconductor space. We kept a lot of these names on our suggested holdings list throughout this pullback with an eye toward a recovery, and we certainly are getting that. So we're going to drill down there, take a look at how you can get in front of the really exuberant strength that's taking place in semiconductor. Talked about gold. We can see that's up here in this forefront as far as that relative strength. The NASDAQ up 9%, almost 2% above the S&P 500. Again, a lot of that is going to be having to do with technology stocks outperforming, and then also those heavyweight FANG stocks are also a big component of the NASDAQ. So from here, we can take a look at software. Software up almost 10%. And this is another big tech area that I focus on. So lots of relative outperformance and names that we can look at within software as they continue the cloud computing and the ability to stay connected remains quite critical. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these other areas. The 10-year yield, it was a bit bouncy this week. We did see movement in and out of Treasury bonds as we got closer to the election, but they are seemingly firming up, and this has a lot to do with what you'll see within bank stocks. Bank stocks didn't do great, but hopefully we have time because I do want to share there are definite pockets of strength within that banking space. So that is our view of currently where the markets are and those underlying sub-industry groupings. We're going to take a quick break here. When we get back, I'm going to share with you gaps up, breakouts, and a lot more. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Mary Ellen McGonagle, author of the MEM Edge report. In my bi-weekly report, I highlight top growth stocks as they enter buy zones, and I educate subscribers on why that stock is attractive both technically and fundamentally. In addition, you'll be alerted to when it's time to exit that stock based on negative technical action. And this bi-weekly report gives you confidence by providing fundamental insights into why an area of the market is strong and which companies within that strong area have the best growth profiles that'll help propel that stock higher. Subscribers to the MEM Edge report are benefiting from my expertise in uncovering top performing growth stocks. Subscribe now to take advantage of my special trial offer. And we are back. I am going to, again, start with some of these stocks that have reported here and are showing excellent numbers. And subsequently, they are being really bid up with quite a bit in the way of volume. This first stock here is Zillow Group, ZG. The company had superior earnings, 408% year-over-year earnings growth, 200% above estimates. And this really is an attractive chart. When you look at stocks that are gapping up, and we are going to see a number of these because of that pullback going into the election. So let me share what I am looking at here. A couple of dynamics that are taking place. One is that downtrend reversal going into that earnings report, but we did get this gap up and a base breakout, a nice 6-week base breakout. RSI is positive now. And take a look at this MACD. So 2 ways that you can use this momentum moving average, convergence, divergence. One is to be on the prowl when it's below here in negative territory for that black line to trade up above the red. That is your first signal that the downward momentum is potentially shifting And then once it gets into positive territory above this net neutral, you're even more bullish on the prospects for that given stock. So here we are, this black line poised to cross up above. It did cross above the red, and we're just now poised to go into positive territory. And actually, that black line is positive. So very, very constructive here on Zillow as far as the future prospects. So again, we're going to share a few names that have gapped up, and then share with you those names that have gapped up earlier so you'll know what to be on the lookout for. Another big outperformer today was payment processing stock Square, SQ, and we can see this is another base breakout, huge volume, very nice characteristics there, RSI positive and MACD. So very, very constructive looking chart. The company reported 36% year-over-year earnings growth, 100% above estimates. They have a new cash app that's really being embraced. You can use it to secure loans, also trade stocks. It's really added quite a bit to their revenues, which were up 140%. So that is another stock. One other name that we can take a look at here is Roku. This is all about streaming media. And we can see that Roku did also pull back, but take a look at how well the stock held in during that pullback. They did report earnings today, another base breakout, huge volume here, 141% year-over-year growth, 120% above estimates, so very robust numbers. This is all about advertising sales, and that in fact is what we are seeing in the way of these internet-related, these streaming media companies. And that is a good sign that companies, corporations are opening their purse strings to spend on advertising. So that is good news. I'm just going to share with you one other name because we have so much more that I do want to cover with you today. AMD, actually they came out with numbers in late October. So ALRM is another name. This is a software stock. You can see this nice gap up here, nice volume, and poised to break out of a much longer base. And the longer your base breakout, the longer historic precedent will tell you, the longer your potential advance out of that base. So we've looked at stocks that have gapped up today on earnings. Let's go back and take a look at stocks that did gap up regarding earnings earlier in the period. So this is TPB, Turning Point Brands. They are a not necessarily tobacco, they are in that industry, but they tend to favor herbal, but it is a company that traffics in chewing tobacco and snuff and so forth. So what we can see here is that gap up on their earnings. They reported at the end of last month, and this is actually picture perfect in the sense of what you want to be on the lookout for following that big gap up. In essence, the stock has a period about 7 days where it is consolidating that big move, finds support. Oftentimes that shorter term green 10-day simple moving average will move up, meet the stock, and that is an ideal buy point as the stock potentially sets up for another leg up. The other thing is the fact that the stock held in while the broader markets and many individual stocks really fell apart going into the election. Another big winner following their earnings results. This is Pinterest. They did also come out. This is actually the beginning of November. And so what I did want to point out to you here is the fact that the stock, again, is another one that really had a period of consolidation, not that long, but we can see that the stock is continuing to advance. So let's go ahead because these volume characteristics on these gaps up are going to be a real clue that there is potential upside ahead. We can take a look at another stock that reported going back historically here, and not too long ago, but a little over a week, this big gap up, huge volume, Same characteristic where it pulls back very orderly to this upward trending 10-day simple moving average. In other words, ideally, you do not want the stock to fill this gap. That would not be constructive. You want the stock to continue to find support at that upward trending 10-day simple moving average. One last one here, IPHI. The company gapped up significantly. Now, in essence, this consolidation period after was really only for 3 to 4 days before the stock continued its advance. In this case, I did want to point out to you how you can utilize an intraday chart. So here's this gap up on the earnings. On that day, you'll want to wait till that third bar, 15-minute price chart. If it trades above that opening gap up, more upside statistically ahead. And from there, you can potentially use this positive RSI and positive MACD characteristics to take advantage of those November 4th, 5th, and 6th advances in that stock. Let's go ahead and move on because I do want to show or share with you stocks that are poised to break out. And then we're going to take a look. Actually, why don't we start out with those names that have broken out, just so you'll know, for those of you not familiar with that concept, what we are on the lookout for. This is Yeti, YETI, another, not necessarily, it is a breakout. Take a look at the volume and other earnings related, big numbers, and the company is guiding higher. They've gone really, direct to consumer sales has really picked up significantly. So we can see this nice breakout that has occurred. MTCH, that's Match.com. This is another stock that had a nice base breakout here. Take a look at the big, the volume trending upward on that base breakout. Another earnings related, we are seeing a pickup in online dating while people are in lockdown. Those of you that subscribe to my MEM Edge report, you are going to know this stock. This has been a big winner for us, Lam Research LRCX. You can see that the stock had this nice 2-week base breakout, nice volume characteristics, and just continuing to power to new highs. So from here on the cusp, it could potentially be poised to break out. This is another MEM Edge report stock, Intuit, and we can see that the stock in line with that September pullback, and then more recently going into the election, a lot of these software big tech companies really did take it on the chin, but we can see that it has nicely broken back above each of these shorter term simple moving averages, and very constructive as far as the RSI, and then that MACD poised to trend upward. Another company that is poised or close to breaking out is Restoration Hardware. This is a company that is a home furnishing retailer, very high end. You can see the stock really has been in a go nowhere period for quite some time. And really, this is how this stock trades. I'm very familiar with Restoration Hardware because they will oftentimes have these lengthy 6-week, 2-month, really go nowhere periods and then have a nice leg up. So I would argue we are currently in that period. So the stock, we could see a nice, another leg up. This RSI and the MACD both trending upward, but they're not due to report earnings anytime soon, but keep this name on your radar. A couple of names more that we're going to take a look at here. First one is TTWO. This is a company that did also come out with super numbers. They raised their sales guidance going forward, poised to break out. I talked about that longer that your base breakout is, the longer the potential advance out of that base. So this would be a 2.5-month potential base breakout. So keep that on your radar. So much more that I want to get into here. First, what we're going to do is take a look at software. I'm sorry, we're going to take a look at technology and then take it from there. So on this StockCharts.com, this first page with this sector, what you can do is just go directly to this sector summary and take a look. Software technology stocks up really significantly. So from here we can see semiconductors. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and start with semiconductors because we can see up 12.4%. And quite simply, that would give certainly anyone really pause as far as considering getting into a group that has already had such a significant move. But let's go ahead and see how you can, in fact, one of the ways I would suggest, because on this first glance, we can see these huge, big movers. Two things I do want to point out as it relates to that. Most of these are small cap stocks. There's nothing wrong. From my work, I do tend to favor larger cap. You can see Lam Research up here in the forefront. But some of these smaller names are going to be a bit more volatile. So what you can do is go ahead and sort it by market cap and take a look at some of these stocks. We did already, of course, look at Lam Research, but I'm going to take us through a couple of other names from my MEM Edge report up here as showing as big movers. So MCHP is another one that is extended. So what I want to do from here, and go ahead and sort it by market cap again, go ahead down here. What we're going to do is hover over the ticker symbol. And what this will do is provide you with a nice view of that particular stock. So let's take a look at Advanced Micro, AMD. The stock is up 14% on the week. But when you look at this stock relative, and they did just come out with numbers, it is still well below this prior high here at the beginning, prior to that election volatility, and then well below its peak in September. A lot of these tech names, as elsewhere, we did have that September pullback. So there is more potential upside. Take a look down here, your moving average, convergence, divergence. We can see that black line just crossing up above the red. We're still below that net neutral. So a nice move up above there, coupled with we already have that positive RSI. And ideally, we can see that this particular stock could still be poised for more upside. And I am going to leave it at that. Unfortunately, I did not have time to get into healthcare and some of those financials. But those of you who would like more information about those stocks poised to trade higher, check out my MEM Edge report. You can use that link below. I have a trial offer, and you will get lots of insights as to where to put your money to work and what looks poised to trade higher. See you next week.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.